goodness. Big move Monday. Look out. A way to end the tournament.
So what's happening, people? Welcome back to the Quad Pod, sponsored by Adidas Wrestling and Poseidon Strength. If you're looking at the screen right now and only seeing 3 people, yes, we are showing up like a Walmart shopping cart today. 3 bald wheels and 1 that's not working at all. Austin a little bit sick, so you come with us. Just thought off the top of my head, by the way. And all of us are bald, even though you guys are wearing hats. But man, it sucks to not have Austin, but he is, has a little sickness running through his house. So get well to him. He'll hopefully be back next week. But we've got some good stuff to talk about today. Believe it or not, as I was kind of putting together the list of things and, all the things that we put into our chat that we talk about throughout the week, I'm like, damn, as you don't think that there's as much going on, you realize that there's still plenty to talk about, which is really cool. And none of it is, I guess, that drama filled. Maybe there's a little bit of drama with the Gabe Arnold stuff we're going to talk about, but for the most part, not much drama, or at least as much that we had at the start of the summer. But let's dive in. Let's get to the weigh-in. And my weigh-in is for my man Tommy Gant. Tommy Gant, one of my favorite humans on the planet. And he was just signed to the UFC Contender Series. The man's been putting in a ton of work. I believe he's still undefeated in the cage. His hands are dangerous. And he looks amazing fighting, doing really, really well. Good movement, good hands, good wrestling, obviously. So congrats to Tommy Gant. He's on his way up. I love that he is utilizing his skills, right? Like, we see a number of guys that, kind of like Bo Nickel or Crutchmer, guys like that, who get kind of propelled through the ladder pretty quickly. Not to say that Crutchmer has or that Nick Piccinini has or either, but they were obviously attached to DC, so they got a little push from that, obviously, which is awesome. We love seeing all our wrestlers taking care of other guys. Tommy Gant, one of those guys that has been on the kind of the amateur, the pro circuit for a bit, has really worked his way up, and as you said, he's 10-0 and making his way to the UFC through the Contender Series, which is pretty awesome. Obviously, Bo Nickel was one of those hot, commodities coming out of, wrestling as he was, and, fought his way into the UFC as well. Aaron Pico, another one of those guys that is training right now for his first UFC fight. And now Tommy Gant on his ascension up as well. So congrats to Tommy Gant. Shout out to him. Much love to him. He's always been a good human. Literally every time I send him a text, he, responds back. So at some point, we'll have him on. We'll do an interview with him, talk about his career and all those things. I believe he's still coaching as well at NC State a little bit.
I think he's helping with the RTC. He's not.
Yeah. So it helps
anymore.
with the RTC, maybe not so NC State in general, but he is still in the room and having an impact on the team. So that's, obviously awesome. Kevin, over to you. Or excuse me, Robbie, over to you.
Yeah, shout out to Tommy. I'm super excited for him. We found out, I guess, Marchish last year before NCAA's that was his plan was to go the pro route in the fighting, and that he wouldn't be coaching anymore. So we can kind of sitting on that, waiting for it to become public. But best of luck to him. I always had great interactions with Tommy down there in Raleigh, and I think he's gonna be good. And just excited to watch. 2 quick shout outs from me on the way inside. First one, Caleb Henson and Ethan Agigi are currently traveling in the South Pacific. Did a tour of Japan and did some training there. Then they're going to Guam, where Ethan is from, and hosting a couple clinics in his hometown. So it's been kind of cool to watch their journey on the Southeast RTC page if you want to check it out. But that's been fun to watch. They were safe from the tsunami that hit over there. I was a little concerned when I heard that news. So I hit up Roby right away to make sure they were good. But just a really opportunity for them and kind of see the benefit of what RTCs can do and give opportunities like that. The second one is to the man here in the middle, to Claunch. Going to rep the blood round tonight. They are coming up on episode number 500, which is a hell of an accomplishment. And, you know, just huge kudos to him and Tommy for everything they've done. It's been awesome kind of following along for the last, 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I remember listening to you when I was, trying to get my first kid down to bed when he was a baby. So it's been fun, kind of being part of that journey and seeing you guys come along. So I'm excited for you guys.
Thank you, sir. We're recording episode 500 tomorrow night, and we're looking at guests and doing stuff like that, like we've usually done for milestone episodes, and then, trying to struggle to get coordinated with logistics and everything. At one point, Tommy was like, "Hey, why don't it just be like us, and we just talk about everything and what we've done?" And I was like, "You know what? Let's do one for us." So that'll be fun.
If you want me to call in and make fun of you guys, I'm happy to do that.
There we go.
That's pretty awesome. So yeah, like the host on the show itself is also 10 years old. So
yeah,
pretty awesome for you guys celebrating
and bald
celebrating
somehow.
Yeah, celebrating 500 episodes. Hopefully we get to that point as well. But go ahead, Claunch, take it away.
Yeah, so I've got a lot to get to. First, I'm going to start with my dude Daniel Elliott at Gardner Webb there. The National Wrestling Coaches Association just ended, and he had posted out there, hey, does anyone have any questions about what was covered and that sort of stuff? And it was admittedly partially self-serving, right? Because I want to know how we can, as media members, best partner with them, because that's we want to cover the sports. We want to make sure everyone's, I don't think it's realistic for everyone to get equal coverage, but a team like Gardner Webb, like they've done some good things. They've consistently put out some good talent. And a guy like Daniel Elliott is just one of those guys in the sport where when you meet him, you're like, this guy's legit. And so big kudos to him, and wanted to shout him out. And ultimately, yeah, like going back to Blood Round for a second, like we've always, and part of me is I went to Central Michigan, which is not the biggest school in the nation as far as D1 goes. And I think I've always been kind of an underdog in that sense because I was not good enough to wrestle in college. So that's a pretty clear indicator. But, I've always liked the smaller schools, and you want to watch these guys go beat the big school kids and get those wins and get it done. And so, always tried to follow those schools. So shout out to Gardner Webb. I think he's been on Daniel 3 or 4 different times on Blood Round over the years. So big fan of his. I also wanted to shout out, we're doing an Adidas shoe giveaway coming up. So again, our sponsor, Adidas Wrestling, you can use promo code QP25 to get 25% off right now of whatever shoes you want. But over the next couple weeks, we'll be announcing some different details as far as a shoe giveaway. I still suggest you go buy shoes first because you might not win the shoe giveaway. You can always get free shoes, why not? It's just an extra pair of shoes. So go buy some first and then enter the shoe giveaway. I did want to add, I actually added 2 more quick shout outs. Kendall Coleman was in the Claw draft, so I wanted to shout him out. I got my Purdue hat on right now. And then also Joey Blaze for winning in, where were they, Switzerland? Something like that? Poland.
Yeah.
That's right, the Polacks. So yeah, good for Joey Blaze as well, the Purdue guys. And then here it is. I should have thought. I'll look this up too. But I was brought in, made aware of Ed Boardley. So the link that he sent me on Twitter, and I'll look that up right now, but was for like a Wall Street Journal article, and it was like, sign up here. Oh, here it is, Burger King of Kings. So shout out to you for getting me aware of Ed Boardley.
Is there a de facto researcher for this new segment?
Yes.
He
yes.
is.
Yeah. So this dude was blind, was an American Paralympic wrestler. Oh, my point being, like, I'm not subscribing to the Wall Street Journal shit, so I just went to Wikipedia.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm reading that. Paralympic wrestler. He was Associate General Counsel. He serves as the General Attorney for the United States Department of Justice, and the FOIA officer for the U.S. Marshal Service. As a wrestler, he won a gold medal at the 1980 Summer Paralympics. He was a state champ in Delaware, where he's from. But yeah, Harvard Law School, Harvard University, blind dude beating people up. Like, that's badass. So shout out to Ed Bordley for kicking ass and being blind.
Nice
job,
crop of
Ed.
shout outs, and love the new segment. Something that as you can see, Claunch honestly named this show, and the meeting that we had to name this show, I think it was like what, like a week or so. We had, our show doc, and everybody was like throwing different names in there. And I think we've discussed this before on like previous shows, but we got a lot more subscribers now than we used to. So we get into a Zoom, and we come on to the to the meeting, and Claunch goes, I didn't write this one down. And mind you, we're like amped to discuss names and spitball and throw names out there. Like, it's a 30-minute meeting. We're gonna go over everything we're gonna have in the show. And he's like, I didn't put this one in the doc, but it just came to me. Why don't we just call it the quad pod? Like, there's 4 of us and it's a wrestling situation. Like, why don't we just use that? So basically, all in one foul swoop, we just shredded every single name that we had thrown into this doc over the course of a week. And we discussed segments. And when the season starts, we will have way more segments. We're going to call our shot. We're going to talk previews. We're going to do recaps and stuff like that. In the off season, there isn't as many things to have those different segments, but we will have a segmented show when the season comes around. But I say all that to say this is, last week when Claunch decided to bring in a history lesson, little did we know that people were actually going to kind of cling on to it. And now every week you can probably expect that there's going to be some sort of history lesson with Claunch during the weigh-in. So
it's Professor Claunch.
It's Professor Claunch. And when things, look a little weird, you can blame yourselves, because now we have Professor Claunch that is going to give us some different wrestling history every single week, in his weigh-in, or at least a couple times, I should say, a month. Maybe not every week, because it can be kind of tough, but we do have a researcher who we do not pay that will be able to feed you some of these lines. So yeah, that's pretty awesome. But I love the history. Love that we're going to be bringing that into the show. And it's honestly pretty awesome. And, as you said, shout out to Adidas. We will have all the details and stuff of these different giveaways once we kind of hammer all of these things out. Really excited about being able to give back to the community, even in a small way, and partner with our sponsors to do it. But with that said, let's get to some of our topics. And the first one we're going to dive into is Oklahoma State wrestles China in freestyle in a dual meet that was pretty private, that no one really knew about. Turns out it was basically for the donors, right? It was kind of like a donor exclusive type of event. A lot of people were really upset that they had no idea about this, and that they couldn't watch it. And, obviously Cowboy RTC is doing a really, really good job with giving us content. That's something that we've certainly seen since David Taylor has taken over, is we get a lot of really good content from him and his team, whether it is the guys in an RTC fashion or the guys in a dual meet fashion or him coaching or whatever else. Like, the transparency, or at least the maybe the illusion of transparency, because I don't want to say that every single team, there's probably basically no teams, honestly, in the NCAA that are fully transparent with everything, which is a topic we'll certainly come across later on, maybe not on this show, but on another one. But the dual meet was just like announced like out of the blue, and good old Matt Boy, who is in on everything out and out Oklahoma, had no idea about it, and said, I wish I would have known about this. I would have written about it, because he basically knows about everything that is going on, and even he didn't know. So it was very tight-lipped. Only the Cowboy faithful knew about it, at least the ones that were willing to travel to
Not
Dallas.
even all of them.
Yeah, at least the ones that were able to and willing to travel to Dallas to see what was happening. So yeah, what did you guys make of, Kevin, your thoughts on the I guess the secret dual meet, the secret international freestyle dual meet that Cowboy RTC had.
I mean, I'm kind of mixed, really. I mean, what night was it? Was it Friday night?
It was like during the day,
It was
actually.
like a daytime thing.
It was like a
Okay.
daytime thing that when they did this, yeah.
Because like it came out like, one of these things when something like this happens and it's announced so randomly late, right? Like, what did we just have the other one that was like in the middle of the day on a Monday?
Yeah, this one was on the
Vito wrestle
31st is what it looks
Yeah.
like.
So I was fortunate enough to watch that one. This one evidently wasn't shown anywhere. I know I've just seen clips online. Point being, like,
Yep.
I was busy. Like, I wouldn't have been able to watch it if it was live anyway. So
Yeah.
I'm glad somebody got to go watch it. I'm glad, ultimately that for Oklahoma State fans that their team is seeking out these sorts of events, these international things. It's great for the wrestlers on, both sides. Both of them, it seemed like good competition. They each team won some matches. So ultimately, like, if they didn't want it to be watched, really, then who cares if it was secret, Like, it's their event for their wrestlers to get better and evidently a couple donors to watch. Then they executed it exactly the way they wanted to. Do I think there's potentially some benefit to building it up a little more and having some more coverage? Sure, certainly. But I'm saying that as a media member who would have liked to have maybe adjusted my scale to have watched it, or had another opportunity to pay more attention to it or boost it up. But ultimately for them, it seems they did exactly what they intended to do, and more power to them.
Yeah. Robbie, your thoughts?
I mean, the whole situation was just kind of weird. They posted at 11 o'clock on that day, the 31st, which is what, Thursday, that they were wrestling the Chinese national team in Dallas that night at 7, which kind of caught everybody that wasn't in that select donor group kind of off guard. Which, same thing. Like, if you want to have an event for your top tier donors, great. That's every team does it, and we're not going to pretend that we don't, right? Whether that's a golf tournament or special access to practices, there's different ways that teams go about it. But I think just kind of the switch between them being so out front on social media and with coverage, and then be like, oh, now we're going to have this secret event. We're going to kind of tell you about it, and then we'll give you some updates later on about how it went. Like, just be upfront. Like, this is a donor event. This is what we're doing. We'll give you some information after it's over. But like, nobody knew that except for the very few people involved in it. And it came out with, Oklahoma State fans coming out and saying, this is what this is. This is a donor event. I know about it because apparently I'm on the donor list that found out about it. But otherwise, one of the biggest media guys in your state with Seth not knowing, that's kind of a weird, imbalance there with how they've been acting as far as media goes.
This could be super genius though, right? Because how do you get more donors? You have secret events for them. So then you're like, well, I want to go to a cool secret event. I guess here's, more money than I intended to give to begin with. And now I'll get to go to super secret events. Maybe we'll wrestle Scotland. I don't know. Like,
yeah,
bring
the
somebody
caber
in and
toss
kick the shit out of them, and then I'll get to go watch it.
Yeah, I mean, it is a fun way to build your donor base, right? Where if you do exclusive things, think about it, right? A lot of the things that we do in our lives, whether it's flying on certain airlines, utilizing the products that we utilize them because of the loyalty that some of these companies give back to us, right? When you get on an airplane and you've got enough frequent flyer miles, you get automatically upgraded, right? Thanks to my 7 years at Flow, every single time I fly on Delta, I get, upgraded to like Comfort or something like that because of all of that. But like, that's what consistently keeps me flying with Delta. It's kind of the same outlook of when you do something for the people that are doing things for you, you can ultimately build that subscriber base or that donor base. And
when you give shoes away.
When you give shoes away, right? Yeah, hint, hint, coming soon, right? So like, you want to give back to your close-knit community that does things for you. But Robbie, you brought up a really good point. I never really thought of it in the same way that you did with teams doing golf tournaments and everything else. I had the privilege of talking to my guy, Steve Middich, today. And he was telling me about some of the things that Rutgers is doing. I mean, they had a golf tournament. They're going to be doing like a fishing trip for their donors as well. And then there's something else that is coming, that they're going to be one of the first teams to do it, and they'll announce that soon. So I'm not going to put that out there, but I mean, he alludes to it in the interview, but they're trying to build their donor base, their subscriber base, their pool of people. And obviously Rutgers has a really good fan base as well that they do things for. And the golf tournament is something that they do. I was privileged years ago to go to the NC State golf tournament, and get some footage of guys like Tommy Gant, who I talked about, swinging a golf club, and be around some of those guys. So yeah, they do some of those things. But yeah, I didn't think of it that way, right? Every team has their exclusive events where they are inviting certain people. I think this one hit the wrestling community kind of hard because it's like, wait a second, when there's wrestling going on, we should be able to see
We
it.
want to watch.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And we've come a long way from having secret events where I can remember, NCAAs essentially being a secret event that you didn't know was happening. You'd have to stumble upon it on ESPN. So now that we have Flow and ESPN is putting some money into wrestling, shout out to Rock Harrison for giving us kind of a glimpse behind the ESPN curtain lately. We are a bit spoiled in this sport. We have a number of press, we have the media, we have an ecosystem where people are talking about it and want to watch and want to be part of all of these different things.
And even teams like live streaming events with wrestle-offs and things like that. We've had just unprecedented amounts of access the last few years.
So even though we feel like we don't get a lot of access, we do get a good amount of access to our wrestlers and coaches and teams in general. But this one was just like, it was kind of a tease where we're like, we want to see Swiderski, we want to see Facundo, we want to see D Lockett, even though D Lockett took a huge loss to their Olympian, which isn't that surprising. You're still like, we want to see these guys in action. And the fact that they just, put out some highlights and they just posted some pictures of them traveling to Dallas kind of had people like, wait, what the hell? What's going on? Like, this is something I probably would have, as Kevin said, rearrange my day a little bit to make sure I could watch it. Because people want to support their teams. But I also understand having an exclusive event. As much as it sucks that we couldn't watch these matches live, it was also really cool that we got content from it from Cowboy RTC and could at least see what was happening. So yeah, I think the spoiled media guy that is looking at these things is saying, what the hell, I would love to watch these things, as the rest of the community was saying it. But I get it. And I kind of love it that they're looking to give back to their donors and they're looking to do right by the guys that the men and women who are supporting this team and are behind the scenes even more, not just the ones that, fill Gallagher Iba on a Friday night or on a Saturday afternoon, but the ones that are really putting up their money to have these guys like Facundo, like Swiderski come in and now wrestle for the Cowboys. So as much as I was like, damn, I would have really liked to see that, I'm also like, yeah, like, give back to your donors. Once I found out that it was a donor only type of a thing, I'm like, okay, yeah, I get that. I understand that. Do you feel like this is something that other teams maybe pivot to, that have like such a strong fan base? Like I talked about Rutgers having a strong fan base, obviously Iowa, Penn State, very strong fan bases, Iowa State, another strong fan base, Northern Iowa. So, suffice to say, Iowa teams have pretty strong fan bases, right? So, like, could you guys, Robbie, I'm coming to you, could you guys see other teams saying, hey, why don't we allow, international teams, if we can fly them in or if we can get them here, why don't we do something that's off the beaten path, kind of outside the box? Instead of a golf tournament, we just make our guys better and we give back to our donors in this way.
I think you're talking about like the top 1% here that's really
Yeah.
has access to that, unless you're like bringing in the Canadian national team and you're in Binghamton. I mean, it's not a big haul, but I
Yeah,
mean,
but I mean, think about how many of
flying
our
10 guys from
guys,
China.
but
That's
think about how many of our guys actually are international that are training here in the States.
yeah. I mean, you could certainly put together like a card.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know that I see a lot of teams moving towards this. I like the idea of exclusive events, but I think if you want a bigger donor base and not just alumni and not just locals, like you have to kind of cater to that and market to that. And if you're marketing that you're going to have this donor specific event, and you're marketing that nationally, why limit your donor base to what you already have if you can expand that, make a donation of this much or more, you can watch the live stream, this much or more, you can come to the event. Like there's ways of doing it. I think that the thing that everybody took issue with was just like the short notice that this was happening and then nobody really knowing what the hell was going on. Like it was just kind of caught everybody off guard. I don't think anybody had a problem with them doing it as a donor event. It's just kind of a weird, just the presentation was kind of weird.
Yeah. Kevin, your thoughts?
Yeah, similarly, it's going to be a select few of teams, and I think it'll be interesting. I don't know offhand, but I imagine there's a lot of these things when they end up happening, it tends to be a conversation that turns into, hey, can we actually do this, right? So I'm sure there's some connection or relationship with, some of either the coaches from the Chinese national team or athletes from the team or some overlap there, right? So I feel like that probably had a lot to do with that, but anytime you can do exclusive donor events, like it's going to boost it up, but this just happened to be a very special one and one that I do not think is going to be replicated with much frequency because logistically it's just too difficult to make happen.
Yeah.
Unless you have a billionaire with a private jet, that makes it a little easier.
That is helpful. That is helpful. Yes, I do agree there.
Also, if you're going to have super secret donor events, invite media, specifically quad pod hosts, so we can check that stuff out too.
Yeah. I mean, I will say this, right? Like if there are people, because as you said, we found out that this was a exclusive donor event through other donors that got the invite. Shout out to Cowboy RTC donors who know how to keep a secret. Because if they found out about this and had it with ample amount of time to make their schedules where they could go to
travel
Dallas,
to Dallas on a Thursday.
Yeah, like where they could make something like this happen and they just were like, well, I'm going to keep it to myself because I was told to, right? Like they're like, yeah, like this is just us and we're going to keep it as just for us. And that's how things are going to go. Shout out to them for keeping a damn secret because most things in wrestling are not secret.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys who love to break news.
Yeah, right. There's a lot of people that love to talk.
Now there's going to be people just checking manifests on like flights coming in and shit like that.
Right? The amount of people that were like, "Hey, Oklahoma State took a trip to Penn State. I wonder who they were there talking about," right? Like there were flight logs and everything when they were, going after David Taylor. So the fact that this was kept secret, more power to you. That's a hat tip to you, Cowboy RTC, honestly. And you honestly have to be impressed by what David Taylor has done in a short amount of time, though. This donor event, pretty awesome. Having more content, new singlets, bringing in the talent that he's bringing in, like all the things. Not just a shout out to him with that, right? Not just him, but like the school as well. As we discussed last week of TJ Dudley, who we'll discuss in our coaching change part of the topic tonight. TJ Dudley probably not in the best situation at Campbell, but you're seeing these other schools like Oklahoma State who can afford it really go hard for their wrestling team and really do a lot for them. So you love to see it. You wish that there was more wrestling or more money in wrestling to do those things. We're seeing Penn with a huge donation, and if you already haven't go check out the interview that Austin did with head coach Matt Valenti, where he talks about the years that went into getting that money and how they went about it and everything else. So definitely go and check that out. It will be linked below as well as somewhere here in the show. I'll make sure it's up on the screen so you guys can just click on it straight from here. But you are seeing an infusion of money. You are seeing people that are coming out to support. As much as we talk about Campbell not having the best situation for TJ Dudley to walk into, Scotty Sentes did leave them with a good chunk of change as he went on to a new endeavor. So hopefully things continue to trend up.
Campbell is an interesting example of that, though, just because it's easy for us to, and for good reason, sit here and be like, hey, what's going on with that athletic department? It is a little suspect. But over the years, they have been excellent at self-promotion, getting on the UFC fight card stuff with Wyoming 2 years in a row. Obviously, they've done dual meets with Army in Michigan. And I feel like I'm missing one other one that they've done. UNC. Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
So I assume and hope he's going to try to continue to keep that self-promotion going in that way, because I can't imagine it doesn't come with money or some sort of benefit on top of just getting good competition. But
yeah, I would love to see North Carolina Division I wrestling do a collective event if possible, right? You have all of these teams in North Carolina. I think you're either one or two of the most Division I wrestling teams in the country. States with the most.
I think they're number one. I think
They
they're
might be number one, right?
Yeah.
Outside of Pennsylvania. So like with that many teams, you could have your own. You could have like North Carolina national duels or something along those lines, right? Where it is exclusive to the teams in North Carolina, where you bring out your North Carolina fan base, and it's tribal.
Both the Carolinas add Citadel to that too.
Yeah, like that's what I'm saying. Like bring in the Carolina Clash or some shit like that. Make it so that
alliteration. Yes.
Exactly. That's what we need.
Cosmic Carolina Clash, and they can do it in black lights.
It would not be the first time that we've ever seen a wrestling tournament happen with black lights. But no, I honestly think that states should start to band together, because as we see, there are the haves and the have-nots in a lot of these states, and it would be pretty awesome to see North Carolina specifically, as they have so many Division I wrestling teams, come together and do something, right? And ESPN Charlotte is literally right there. As Rock Harrison again pointed out, he was able to go to ESPN Charlotte, where they're going to be doing most of the ACC coverage and all the other things, right? So, hey, North Carolina, maybe you guys have an event on your hands to kick off a season or something along those lines, where you can put something together and have your fans come out and do a mini North Carolina or Carolina NCAAs type of a thing, where wear your team shirts and you have your own sections and stuff like that. Would be pretty damn cool. But yeah, any other thoughts on the secret event from Oklahoma State and China?
From the little bit we saw, they looked good. Ronnie Ramirez was kind of the big story out of all that. California State champ looked real good. Hitting on Wyoming real quick, talking about funding. They were just included in the revenue sharing for the school, so they're going to be getting a chunk of money from the school, which will be very beneficial, because they've got a new venue coming, a new practice facility, and just kind of same thing we talked about with Campbell, what Mark and his crew have done with self-promotion and getting their team out there in front of people has been great. And, a couple $million more to help out with that is going to do nothing but be beneficial.
Absolutely correct about that. Let's jump into coaching changes. I know we have a different topic listed. We'll do coaching changes first. Because we've already mentioned TJ Dudley, and he had a pretty good interview with Nick Kosko. Shout out to Nick Kosko. As I said, Kosko is a first round pick for me at all times.
Kosko's
the work that he does.
Good dude.
The one of the notable things that Dudley said is Campbell Wrestling is here to stay, and we've mentioned, and I think we said on last show, like it's not the best situation to go into, and you kind of feel like, man, are they 1 foot out the door with cutting the funding for scholarships and just kind of how they've gone about a lot of the things lately, right? So what did you guys make of hearing Dudley say, and Robbie, this is, kind of your territory here with Campbell. What did you make of him saying that they're here to stay, right? As we look at them and say, man, you're losing some funding, even though Senta's left a lot of money, you're losing funding from the school, but you're saying that they're here to stay.
I mean, I hope it's true. I mean, that's kind of what we hit on last week with when we said, announced that TJ was getting hired, is that they need somebody who's really invested in the program, and he is, and familiar with the program, and wants to get it back to the level that they were at, with or without the school support. So I'm hopeful. I'm very anxious to see the coaching staff that he assembles, because he's kind of got bare bones now. Because Josh Heil left and Scotty's out, so now he's got to refill the roster here, both with wrestlers and with coaches. So it's going to be a big job ahead of him, but I'm anxious to see what he'll do with it.
Yeah. Claunch, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think, again, he's been there, right? He kind of knows the landscape. I'm sure he understands, and accountability is key, right? And a guy like TJ Dudley is not a person who I'm sure shies away from accountability, but it goes both ways. So I'm sure he's had conversations around what are you going to support, and where do we need to support ourselves? And what is that going to look like, so that when I'm talking to recruits, when I'm talking to families, when I'm working with our kids who are doing everything they need to do to perform on the mat and to train hard and to be ready to represent Campbell, what are they going to need to do in addition to that to help ensure the program sticks around, right? And has stability, so I imagine, like, you don't just go out there and be like, we're here to stay and hope for the best. You know what I mean? Like,
what does that look like?
Right. Because somebody's going to ask him, right? A recruit's going to ask him. A parent is going to ask him. He's going to have to provide specific and clear examples of how and why that's the case. Maybe during the interview, obviously, is not necessarily the space to lay it all out and kind of walk through the roadmap. But I don't think you say that without having some understanding of where you're going to be held accountable as a coach, and where the school is going to be held accountable as a support system, and what you're going to represent. So I have enough faith. I mean, again, I don't think if he's been there, for years, and he's familiar with the space, he's familiar with what they've done with promoting. So I think he knows what the expectations are and is going to follow through with those.
Yeah. It was refreshing to hear that, right? Because he obviously would know something that the rest of us wouldn't, but then it's also like, he still has to go out and recruit, and he still has to convince, young men to bet on Campbell. So what's he going to say? That
right,
we're going to give it our best shot and hope that they give us money, right? No, he's going to say that we're here to stay. He's going to say that we're going to be around, even though we are losing scholarships, or that we have to probably get more creative than we did with 9.9 or anything else. He's supposed to say that we're not going anywhere, and that everybody thinks that the sky is falling, and it's really truly not, like all those things, right? So I think it's one of those things where it's just like, yeah, obviously he's going to say that, but now it's, for me, from my perspective, it's not just on him to follow through on this. It's on the school, because he can coach his ass off, but with no money and no support, it's not going to matter. So we'll certainly see kind of what happens there. Kevin, I'm going to come back to you as your alma mater, firing up the chips here.
Yeah.
Colin Heffernan. What were your thoughts and initial reactions on that?
Well, my initial reaction, truthfully, is I was bummed, because Colin's awesome. I've had him on Blood Round before. I've talked to him at literally like every event that I cross paths with him. I just usually catch up with them and shoot the shit. I told him at the Central Michigan duel last year, congrats to you and your wife on your kid, and wanted to say it in person and all that stuff. He still has one of the funniest moments that I've had at a wrestling tournament. So like the MSU Open is always like right around my son's birthday. November 13th is his birthday. But we usually drive down and we spend a couple hours there walking around, and then we come back for his birthday party, or if it's on the same day or whatever, like come back at some point, right? But he is turning 10. And so Colin, being the nice guy he is, was like, hey, what's up, man? How's it going? And talking to my son, he's like, oh, it's your birthday. Fantastic. How old are you turning? He's like, oh, I'm turning 10. And he goes, oh, man, it's all downhill from here. And I was cracking up, and my son laughed, and he's like, oh, I'm just messing with you. But genuinely an awesome dude. So I would be lying if I said my initial reaction wasn't bummed, right? Ultimately, I've talked to him. I'm not going to put it out here, kind of what he's doing or what his plans are, or whatever, because it doesn't seem like the right place or time to do that. But I texted him and we talked for a little bit, and ultimately, I'm very happy for him and his family. What they're going to be doing is going to be great for them, and yeah, I mean, as far as the Chippewas go, it's a loss, right? But I'm sure they'll bounce back. I'm sure they'll be able to bring in some excellent additional coaches to fill into that role. I have my own hopes and dreams as far as what they're going to do there, but I'm not going to put it out there. Are you
applying?
I am not applying. No. I would be a bad choice. So I do have some options that I think would be good choices, and I'm waiting to see what's going to happen there. But yeah, time will tell. I'm excited.
For sure. Yeah, it was, and as we get Claunch's live first responses. So the one he just gave is more collected. He's had time to dry the tears and be a little bit calmer, but it was certainly a holy shit moment when that hit our group text of didn't know that was coming. But yeah, you said you reached out to him and he's on to really great things. And that's the thing, right? Is when these coaching changes happen and they kind of come out of nowhere and they're with people that we have been able to build relationships with, and you shoot a text to any of these guys, you just want to hear that whatever the next thing is something they're excited about. Mm-hmm. That's exactly what it was when I spoke to Nate Engel, right? Nate sent me, me and Nate text a good bit. At least when he's in the country. He's currently in Hungary with his entire family. But as promised, when he gets back, he'll be coming on here on this channel. But it was kind of the same situation that when I texted him, it was not a talk about wrestling. It was a talk about like family and what's the next step, and how did you get to this conclusion, and why this opportunity type of a thing, and not so much about, damn, we're going to be missing out on this guy at this event or this, that, whatever. Right. So it's always good when you hear coaches moving on, but it's great that they're always moving on to something that they're really excited about. In the same vein, I want to go to Robbie, because I know we talked about the Binghamton coaching staff, or I guess the lack thereof right now, but there are certainly guys in the mix that they're trying to pare this down, but I know, Robbie, you have a little bit extra context to the Binghamton job.
But I was asked to keep this one quiet, so I'm gonna hold my tongue on this one. But I did talk to another former D1 head coach who is interested in the job and has applied and is in the process of going through the interview process. The names that we had heard before are still in contention as finalists, along with this other one as well. So he's previously spent time at Binghamton, coached at another place in New York. So it would be an interesting move. But they're certainly looking at multiple options to see what's going to be the best fit for the school. So I don't think they're going to rush to find this position. I think they feel good with the interim coaches they have now and the assistant coaches they have on staff. So
yeah. Yeah, not to give the audience these cliffhangers. I know we say a lot of, we talk to a lot of these guys and we aren't putting things out. We want to be transparent with you guys that are listening and watching, that it's tough to have I guess the scoop on these things and not tell you. But it also is because of how much respect we have for these coaches and these athletes that we're speaking to. We're not going to run to Twitter to put out this news or be first or whatever else, right? When the time is right and we're allowed to speak on these things, we'll speak on them, right? And we'll put out the things that were told to us on these different topics. I know we've said a lot tonight on some different topics of, we have to keep some things in our back pocket for right now. But it is out of respect for who these people are. We gain these relationships because we respect each other and because they know that by telling us certain things that we're going to keep them until they're ready for the rest of the wrestling world to know about them and be broadcast on a podcast. So apologies for the cliffhangers, but when the news comes out on these certain things, you'll understand why, right? That these coaches are trying to cross every T and dot every I, and we're allowing them to have the time to do that.
It would be really easy to just destroy relationships and not have interviews and like have this show be way worse. So
yeah, exactly. Like there's a reason for all of it. There's a reason, there's a method to the madness that this show is right now, with some of these secrets, but in time, these things will certainly come out. But with that, we'll move on to the Gabe Arnold situation. Speaking of, running to Twitter to get things out, uh, as most people probably found out via Twitter that Gabe Arnold was going to be staying at Iowa, or at least going back to Iowa. I guess I should say. I can't.
Returning.
I don't think we can say stay since he was dismissed. But I reached out to some people. Whenever I see anything on Twitter, it doesn't matter who it comes from. I'm going to reach out to the people that I know and trust to confirm these things. So this isn't a shot at Pat Minio, honestly. But there are certain people that if they told you it was raining, you check the weather and you look outside and you double, triple check certain things. So did all the due diligence to hear about this certain thing, and I have been told the same that many other people have, that Gabe Arnold is going to be going back to Iowa. I don't know what those conversations with him and Brands look like. I did reach out to Gabe Arnold. I haven't heard back from him. So that I will say, I've talked to Gabe a number of times before he was at Iowa, specifically when he was wrestling at Elite Eight Duels. Shout out to Compound, literally the shirt that I'm wearing right now. So awesome kid, nice kid, always been really super, super respectful to me. But he is going to be going back to Iowa. And when it was confirmed to me, a couple days ago, or a couple hours ago, I should say, I was pretty surprised by it, honestly. Right. As I said, yeah, about the news, what people are saying, but once it's confirmed by sources and people that you respect and trust, you're like, man, like, is that the best move? And while it may be the best move to make him super competitive and have really good partners and, maybe a robust NIL or whatever else is probably part of the package in this era of sports, you're also like, is he changing weight classes? Where's he going to fit in the lineup? Right. So that was kind of my first thought of, I didn't think there was a clear and easy path for him to be at 84 or 74 for that matter. And he's certainly, I would not say big enough for 97 with some of the monsters that are at 97. But it just, to me, I thought that him leaving Iowa was kind of a gift and a curse, essentially, because nobody wants to be dismissed, but you also can get a clean slate at another school and somewhere where you have a path to being in the lineup. What were your guys' thoughts on this? Claunch, I'm going to start with you. What were your thoughts on the Gabe Arnold going back to Iowa news?
Once again, my initial thought was like, oh, good. Like, if in every interview he did, and we talked about it all last season, he seemed committed to, working with Ferrari, and that the team would figure it out, and that they were, going to push each other to get better, and, iron sharpens iron, and all the stuff that you say in interviews, right? And I don't know why, but I was like, I'm choosing to just take this at face value, right? I'm choosing for this to be received by me as, genuine and real, and how he truly feels. It sounded that way. And yeah, getting in the lineup might be difficult. But as you were kind of talking through it, I remembered a couple things. One, literally last year, like, the Brands didn't start their son or nephew, depending on which Brands you're talking about, right? Because like, they are like, if you're gonna start, you're gonna earn it, so there's that piece. So like, it wouldn't be surprised if he just is out of the lineup because he can't make the lineup, right?
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it's not crazy to think that maybe Ferrari's getting big. Maybe Ferrari goes up to 97. We've seen his brother, maybe Gabe Arnold just doesn't wrestle this year, and whatever that ends up looking like. Or maybe he just loses a year of eligibility because he can't make the lineup. Is it the best situation for him? It's hard for me to say. I don't think if he thought it wasn't, he wouldn't be there, especially given the circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
But I think for him, he wants to go back. He, from all indications, seemed to show that he is. So once again, I'm happy. I think if that's where he wants to be, it's going to be great. I said a couple weeks ago, I'm going to be bummed because he had all those cool Iowa memories of him going in there and essentially winning the Iowa State duel. And did he have a rough end of last year? Sure. But I do think he's going to be able to figure it out. And I hope that he can do it there as a Hawkeye.
Yeah. Robbie?
Yeah, ending your season getting pinned by D'Anthony Parker is probably not the optimal way to end your Iowa career. I mean, I don't know. It's kind of a weird. It felt weird.
Is that
to
a shot
me.
at D'Anthony Parker? He's pretty good.
No, he's not bad. It's just I don't think that's what you would want to end your career on. I mean, he's a huge recruit and has a lot of expectations, and I think he would be the first to tell you that his NCAA tournament did not go as he planned it. And that's, a first period pin is not a fun way to end anything. So I don't know. It just seems so weird because it was such there's a bad taste in everybody's mouth when he was dismissed, and now he's back. And then, there's no real clear spot for him in the lineup. I mean, theoretically he moves down. He's got to, fight with Patrick Kennedy, who's coming off a fourth place finish. If he moves, stays at 84, he's got Angelo Ferrari, who's, one of the top prospects in the weight class. If he moves up, which he would be a very, very short 97, which I don't think is going to go very well for him, even as thick as he looked. I don't think he's quite built to be a 197. He's got Ndene, who's, a 3-time champ moving to D1. So there's not an easy route.
I forgot about him. My bad. Yeah.
Yeah. There's not an easy route for him to go anywhere. And, I think a lot of people would have chosen that to just pursue this as a fresh start and move elsewhere and see what you can do. But seems committed to wanting to be at Iowa. So, I mean, if that's what he wants to be and that's where he wants to be and wants to be successful there, then he's going to do what it takes to make that happen. Like you said, maybe he's split starts this year. Maybe he doesn't wrestle this year. I mean, Kennedy's a senior, right? Kennedy's a senior and Nene's a senior. So, I mean, it opens up some options after that. And even if, Angela moves up next year to 97 and Gabe stays at 84, there's certainly some options to play with. It's just going to be a shitty year for, to have a log jam in the lineup there.
Yeah, more power to him. I hope it works out, honestly. Like I said, super nice kid. I think he's incredibly talented and can be an NCAA All-American at some point in his career. Honestly, my thought was like, why doesn't he go to like Virginia Tech? I feel like he could potentially make things work there. but I don't know. I mean, it's even closer to home for him. So that was just my thought, right? Of why doesn't he try to go to a different school or, get out of the Big Ten, have a completely fresh start, whatever else. But that was my thought. And I want to see him succeed no matter what. I don't wish badly on anybody in the NCAA. I want to see everybody succeed, but like some situations they just don't look like they add up. And for a prospect like Gabe Arnold, you're like, man, I understand wanting to be the top dog of the top dogs in your room, but you also have to make the lineup in order to do that, right? So not to say, and I guess in that same vein, I commend him on not taking that easy route. A number of athletes that we have seen name the sport have been like, I'm not starting, I'm out of here, right? So as much as we're sitting here saying, why doesn't he go get a fresh start somewhere where he would be able to get into the lineup easier, be a starter, have more consistent competition. There's also something to be said about a guy that's like, no, I want to be here. I understand that there's a guy that is in my room who is, top 3 in the weight class potentially, but I want to be here. And I know that if I'm going to be the top dog in the NCAA, I'm gonna have to wrestle him regardless. So why don't I wrestle him in the room and beat him in the room so that I don't have to beat him at NCAAs? So as much as I think Gabe Arnold would need a fresh start, I also, like I said, I kind of tip my hat on him not jumping ship and trying to mend, some broken bridges to get back into that Iowa wrestling room.
Well, even when, and obviously the way the season ended was not ideal, right? It'd be weird if that was exactly how he planned his NCAAs. That would be a really bad plan. But
the visualization worked great, though.
Yeah, that's exactly how I saw that happening. He lost in overtime to McAnally, right, during the duel. Man, I had other ones in my head of like close matches that he had with like really, really great wrestlers, right? It was consistent all year. He was right there with some of the best. So up until the end when it really fell apart. Oh, that was Jackson Smith. I think at Big Tens they had an overtime match or some other thing going on. Tiebreakers, yeah. So it's like it's not like it just that was a bad weekend to have a bad weekend.
Yeah, I mean, his losses last year weren't bad. He lost to McAnally, lost to Cyrus Allred, lost to Jackson Smith, Edmund Ruth, Chris Foca, and D'Anthony Parker was his worst loss. Like, it wasn't a bad season.
But that's the other thing, right? Is like how many and Holmes, obviously you and I have talked to a lot of dudes from the Big Ten, but they always say that's why we're here. The Big Ten is the best wrestling conference, and they take some pride in it, right? So for him to I'm not going to use the ACC for his example just because you just used it, and Robbie's here, and out of respect, he jumped to the elbow on you. EIWA. Austin can't defend himself. What are you going to do? Just transfer over there and beat everybody? No, I'm kidding. Again, the IAWA is awesome, but you get my point. They want to be at the Big Ten to have that competition and to make those adjustments. So.
Yeah. And I hope he finds his way into the lineup. Honestly, like I said, I think he can be a very great wrestler, honestly, at least a 2-time AA. So yeah, I hope he certainly finds his way into the lineup. Let's pivot a little bit. I know there was a couple weeks ago. Not Hannah Brown on YouTube hit us up in the comments and said, what did we think about the claw draft? It was one of the comments. I think it was the night of the claw draft. It had been going on as we were recording, I believe, so we didn't really have a chance to give our full perspective of it. And now it's been a little bit, and more things have transpired with these leagues, and I think we've touched on some of them kind of here and there, but we've never really kind of dug into the nuance of these different leagues. And with Hulk Hogan dying, a lot of people were like, okay, well, what happens to RAF? What happens to, the money there and kind of the publicity and things like that, because I mean, he was the reason why a lot of people outside of wrestling were paying attention to this new wrestling league. So he was essentially the face without having to be a competitor with it. So there's just been so many different things happening with these leagues. There's another one, what is it, CWA, where we're going to see some guys come out of retirement, right? We're going to see Reese Humphrey come out of retirement and wrestle Sammy Alvarez. So all these leagues are doing some different things all over the place. What do you guys make of the models, right? What model do you think is the best one and could potentially be the most sustainable? Money alone, right? Like we're seeing a lot of money being put into all of these different things. There's a lot of competition that is happening. So a lot of the money backing doesn't seem to be the issue, at least right now, even though over the course of time, we've seen a number of these different leagues go belly up because it just doesn't make sense. No pun intended, but the dollars aren't making sense, right? But with the money that are behind these different leagues that we have going on right now, which one do you guys think has the best model? Claunch, I'll start with you.
Well, it's interesting. Let me first say I love the draft idea, and the more it was getting posted about and thrown out there on Twitter, I was like, this is cool. Like, I like that guy, right? I already talked about Kendall Coleman. Like, I'm so pumped that Kendall Coleman is going to be wrestling again, and I get to watch it. You know how lucky
he on the
we
same
are?
team as Matt Stencil?
I'll be honest with you, I don't know. I don't recall if he is or not, but I did see there was a trade. They traded Muhammad McBride for Devin Skatska. So now Devin Skatska, a Richland, Michigan native, is on the Matt Kings. So that's exciting. I like purple. Purple's a great color. Anyway, back to your question. I don't know enough, honestly, about the finances around them. I think without Hulk Hogan, I like to think that if their financial model was Hulk Hogan will save us, then it was fucked to begin with, right? So I don't think that it's going to be in that much trouble. I think that they've done a great job with bringing in talent. They've got some exciting stuff going on. It sounds like, honestly, Izzy and Willie and some of the people they've brought in there. Eric Bischoff evidently is strong enough with all the business pieces of it to be real. I say evidently only because I watched a ton of WCW and he had his character there, and it's really hard for me to separate like that from. I'm sure he's great at it, honestly. So anyway, but yeah, I think that it's going to be fine. I'm interested to watch Claw. I haven't actually watched it yet. When it was going on before, I remember I saw some highlights. I missed it. So I'm excited. I really do want to give him a chance. The CWA. If I messed that up, I'm sorry. I couldn't. I think that's the acronym. I'm excited to watch that. I'm going to legitimately try to give as much of this a chance as I can give a chance without my family hating me for being obsessed with this, right? So I'm excited. I do think, if RAF has the backing we think it should have for it to be successful, that probably is the most financially stable one. But again, I don't know enough about Claw. So
yeah. Robbie, your thoughts?
Well, I think it's hard because they're so different, and I think that each different one has elements that are great, and I think could be the better way to go. Like, I love that CWA is folk style because that's what we're accustomed to watching, and there's not going to be any interpretation lost between rule sets when people aren't used to watching freestyle. I like the cards that they've had so far. I mean, they on my end, they have a lot of former ACC guys who have competed, so I've enjoyed watching them. Brian Courtney was on their last card. He's going to be on their next one. So seeing him getting drug out of retirement from being a teacher down in South Carolina to back on the mat, that's fantastic.
Yeah, he's wrestling fellow Wilkes Colonel Giuseppe Ray.
Yeah, and now he also got drafted in Claw, so he's doing both. And there's something to be said about those two leagues not competing with each other and working well together. Like Claunch said, I love the idea of the draft. I love the idea of teams. I think, and I said it before, like I think that's where RPW, Real Pro Wrestling, had it right. I think, you know, having regional teams is an awesome idea because you're building up a fan base for a team and not just a specific wrestler. And, you know, as we see fandom in different sports, we know how strong the allegiance is for people to have a team to root for. And I think that's a great model. I don't like that Claw has a completely unique rule set because I think that confuses people, and we already have enough confusion with rule sets between freestyle and folk style and Greco, that adding another layer of confusion to that makes it complicated. The names that RAF is pulling in, both domestically and internationally, they're certainly making the best investment. I think the biggest complaint that I have with them right now is that they're not being very public with things. They're not getting a lot of information out there. And I mean, Willie's said that himself, is that, you know, they're not putting out everything that's going on. And I don't think they need to put out everything, but I think more information about what the events are going to look like, what, you know, who the final, they just finalized their first card and that happens in 3 weeks. Right. So like more information is good, especially when you're starting something new. So I think they all three have a chance to be successful. I think working together and finding the best elements of all of them would be optimal. I mean, if we could combine that and make it all work together in some perfect union, but that's not ever going to happen, especially in our sport. So I don't know. I'm excited for all three of them. I think they all have good things to offer. I think for the most part, the people behind them, I can say that I've spoken with the CWA guys and the Claw guys, and I mean, I know Willie. I don't know anybody else behind it, behind RAF, but there are people who want the sport to do well, and they want a legitimate professional option for these guys, and they're just trying to figure out the best way to do it through their model.
Yeah. That, you know, first and foremost, shout out to all three sets of organizations, right? Like trying to do something on another level for the sport of wrestling is great. I commend each and every one of them on all of these things. I have spoken. I did an interview with the commissioner of Claw last year, maybe 2 years ago, on Intermat, and he talked about like why they were changing rules and everything else. So if you want, you can go back and check that out. And that was before anything was really established with the draft or stuff like that. It was still in like a testing mode where they were testing out the rule set.
One more thing real quick on Claw.
Yeah.
I wish they didn't have mascots because I don't like mascots because they scare me. So
noted. Robbie, not a fan of mascots. I have obviously spoken to Willie as well as Izzy. And the thing that probably bothers me the most about RAF, and yes, this is completely anecdotal, is their, and you know, you said Willie noted it on the show, of their lack of communication and having a cohesive like message. The thing that bothers me about that is I've spoken to both of them in like separately about doing content for RAF and trying to make that a cohesive thing. And now when you reach out, it's crickets, right? Where let's face it, as much as we think there's a lot of people in wrestling to do wrestling things, there isn't, right? The fan base isn't huge. People, as we have said, don't always get along with each other, especially in wrestling media. And not for nothing, yeah, I'm gonna, you know, kind of pat myself on the back. I think I know what the fuck I'm doing when it comes to doing content. I've done it for a very long time. So when you have these connections and you talk to these people and you finally get Willie on the phone, you know, I sent a text to Izzy and he immediately called me, right? So we've had these conversations. You look at him say that they don't have a cohesive message, and it's just like, well, I tried to help But, even though that portion bothers me because I want to, I guess, like, have some sort of support and stamp on some of these things and do right by the sport that I love, that keeps me from saying that RAF is at the top right now. While things look really shiny and new over with RAF, and they have a good amount of people and matchups that are coming out of that, it still just looks kind of haphazard right now. So that's the thing where I'm like, right now, until we get to a certain point, I don't know what to expect there. I love the claw draft. I think that is great. But I also feel like if there were some tweaks to it where, even though it's not the biggest sport, we have seen lately that there are some big money people in the sport. And if we instead pulled these guys in and said, why don't you build a team? You guys have the money to build a team, be the owner of a team. You don't have to draft a team per se, but you can go out and sign 12 guys that way, or 15 guys or whatever else, right? And we treat it like we do the NFL, where there's trades, there's injury reports, there's, the whole full gambit of things. And we allow these big money guys to essentially be Jerry Jones, where they're the GM and they own the team, they run the team, they put all these things together. I think that would be a nice wrinkle to it, where, like I said, I love the draft, but I think bringing in the business guys, the big money guys to support these teams instead, I think would probably go a really long way. Because also these guys are, they do the things they do because they have the resumes to do them. And this would be something where they're like, well, my team beat this team, right? Like, I'm looking at the CWA page right now, and it's like the Central PA Whitetails beat the Lehigh Valley Hellbenders, right? Like, and if I'm the owner of the Hellbenders, I'm like, this is why my team is the best, and stuff like that, right? Where you're building tribes, you're building this kind of tribalism that we have in other professional sports. So for me, I love the draft. But if I'm putting one at the top, it is CWA right now, because they didn't try to reinvent the wheel. They just created what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams. While the teams are all based in, on the East Coast, New Jersey, New York, and PA. They didn't try, like I said, to reinvent the wheel. They said, we're just going to do folk style. Everybody knows what folk style is, especially where we are in Pennsylvania. Here's the teams, right? Here's the guys that are going to be competing in it, and go, right? So
is that Reese Humphreys music?
Yeah, exactly, right? Like, he is part of CWA, and maybe I reach out to him and see about him coming out of retirement, right? But like, it's cool to have something that is sustainable for these guys, but like, you'd ultimately like to see things happen on that bigger scale and see more of an investment and have people really truly paying attention and watching these dual meets, and maybe at some point they start to have bigger live streams, and people stay connected to them and everything else. But yeah, that the claw draft was really cool. I like what CWA is doing with these teams and not trying to reinvent the wheel with the rules. I do not like that claw is trying to change some rule sets and stuff, but I think if RAF can look like a cohesive unit, they have the most potential in this because of who is backing it and because of the voices that most people know in wrestling. So I think they can certainly blow up, and the wrestlers that they have in this can absolutely take this to the top because they have the cachet to do it. But it's a matter of looking like a true cohesive team, to be completely honest. And right now, I know that it's still their first go round, but there's a lot to clean up in that department right now when I look at RAF. But I think that they can certainly do that. And I'm trusting the people that are in place to do that because they've been around for a very long time. But yeah, I think they can certainly make things happen. with RAF, but right now CWA is in the lead for me. Any other thoughts on these wrestling leagues, gentlemen? Ready to move on to something a little bit more fun to kind of close the show out?
Make our own wrestling league.
We're make our own wrestling league. So to close things out, I was giving it some thought where I've seen some different NCAA wrestling video game covers. You know, obviously anybody can use AI to do certain things these days, or we've got some pretty damn good graphic designers around. So we've seen a number of these things. It was honestly David Carr's post that made me think about it the other night, and I texted the guys and I'm like, let's end the show this way. So we're gonna, if we were creating an NCAA 26 wrestling video game, here are the three different categories that I asked the guys to kind of think of these things. Who would be your cover athlete or athletes? Because as we've seen with NCAA football, they're putting a whole host of people on these covers. Sometimes there's 3, sometimes there's 4. In the past, obviously with Madden, it's Saquon Barkley. So who would be your cover athlete or athletes? And then 3 locked characters that you would, your first 3 locked characters. Now, 2 of them are NCAA wrestlers that we know about. Another one is like a celebrity, a guy that has, or girl that has been in wrestling and has moved on to something else, and that's how they make their living. And then the last thing, it's kind of a 2-parter, and the last thing is, what weight would you do a Road to Glory season, and what 2 coaches would be in your corner if you made the finals? So I'm going to start with Robbie on this one and allow him to give us his NCAA wrestling overlook of what he would do.
Well, let's start with the cover. I think, you go for an exciting wrestler who's at the top, has a good face for the sport, is entertaining. And I think you go with Jesse Mendez right now. He's been super fun to watch. He's always putting on a show, and feel like he's going to continue that road right now. My first thought would have been to go with Caleb Henson, but he's coming off a loss in his second finals to Rich Lovett. But
Shocking.
I think Mendez would be good. Yeah, that was horse shit, but that's a whole other thing, a whole other story. But I think there's I wouldn't put Mitchell Messenbrink on it just because his serial killer glasses scare me. And I don't think that would be very fun. But I think Mendez or Lucas Bird. He's got some appeal. We got the crossover from the TikTok fans. You got the short coming back? Vibes.
Yes.
He is? Okay, damn. All right.
Hell yes.
He's a good option.
I'm excited to watch Lucas Bird.
Some of us were excited last year. Not going to name any names, but some of us picked him to win an NCAA title before the season even started.
I do like Lucas Bird. The story the other day about him taking the autographed poster to a fan, that was pretty badass.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I think he would be a good one. I mean, I think him and Jesse Mendez on the cover would be solid. You got a couple of Big Ten guys kind of appeal to the bigger crowd. What were the other questions?
The next one is 3 locked characters, 2 NCAA wrestlers and 1 celebrity wrestler.
Well, I think you have to go with Kale as one of the locked wrestlers. I mean,
yeah.
Arguably the best to ever do it. I mean, you go with Dan Gable there too, but I think that I'll leave that one for one of you guys to do. I think my other one, I'm gonna go with Mako, just because he scared the shit out of everybody, and I think he'd be a fun one to have locked. And you kind of come back with him, and you could go the Iowa route or the Oklahoma State route, and kind of get the fans pissed off in one way or the other.
Yeah,
I think it gives you some options to play with. I think like the Kale character would have to have like a super long reach, like the guy on Mortal Kombat, and just like ankle pick from all the way across the mat.
Yeah,
that'd be pretty awesome.
Are you thinking Dawson from Street Fighter?
That might be the one. Full disclosure, I'm not a video game guy.
Yeah, that's what you're going with.
The last video game system I owned was a Super Nintendo, and I used to get really mad at games and throw things and break things, so I wasn't allowed to have video games. So I never really got into that. That's not my vibe.
There you go.
So, locked character for a celeb. I think Mario Lopez would be a fun one because he's ageless and he was a wrestler. I mean, he was AC Slater, was a state champ on the tiniest mat ever in history, right? That's a good one. Let's go with those ones.
There you go. And then what weight are you doing your, I'm just gonna call it a dynasty mode. What weight are you doing your season dynasty mode, and who are the two coaches in the corner?
Caleb Henson's coming back to get another title, avenge his 1-0 loss and get to his third finals. I think if we have to choose somebody who's not their actual coach, I mean, I think Freyer is kind of the mind behind the technique there, and I think he'd be a good one. But I think finals wise, one of the best options that we've seen in recent history to have in the corner is Casey Cunningham. Is brilliant coach and makes adjustments on the fly, and his athletes seem to trust him unconditionally. So that's the two I'm going to go with.
There you go. Claunch, it's on to you.
So I had Mendez as well, but I will say the other names that I had down, Mitchell Messenbrink.
Nope, serial killer glasses, not allowed.
You make a good
Void.
point. One that I'm throwing out there that I did really like, I like Antrell Taylor as a cover athlete too, coming off an NCAA title. Sorry to my Purdue guys. Wish I could have had been Joey Blaze, but it wasn't in the cards this year. Maybe next year. But Taylor, I mean, like was talking on the mic, leading up to the finals, was ready to go after he beat Shapiro. He's like, I'm here, I'm coming for it. Let's go. I was like, man, this guy's fun. Let's get him on the mic. He's got great mic skills. So I think he might be a fun one to have on the cover.
You have any nunchuck skills?
Probably. Funny enough, Ed Ruth had nunchuck skills. Remember when he would just post on Instagram like clips of him just swinging his nunchucks around in the backyard?
You know what skills he didn't have? Drive-through skills.
No, the drive-through skills were not as good. He should have taken the nunchucks. He would have been just fine. But no, I locked characters. I mean, Dan Gable certainly is obviously a main one. I'm going to go with these two. They're my two favorite ones in this respect. Let's go Jordan Burroughs. And I want an Indiana State Bruce Baumgartner character that you can unlock.
With the biggest mustache ever.
Just a big
his
mustache.
Whole face is just a mustache.
Yeah, he looked like Zangief to go with another Street Fighter reference.
What weight are you doing a season mode, and who are your two coaches in the corner? Mind you, it doesn't have to be like, you can be like a creative player.
Yeah, I want to be me. I want to be me, and I want to go beat Caleb Henson in the finals. Robbie's day, and I'm gonna.
I would not wish wrestling Caleb Henson on anybody. I've seen him hurt people. It doesn't seem pleasant to wrestle.
Yeah, but my created character, first of all, has hair, all right, and second of all, is really good. So
yeah, maybe the next show will end with what attributes you create a character from.
And you just have Borellis, all the Borellis.
Oh, I want to throw out there a couple celebrities too, because I don't think I did that part yet.
Yeah, celebs, and who are the coaches in your corner then?
Oh, Ben Bennett and Sean Bourmet. Just other the two guys I've probably had the most conversations with in that level. So I'm like, let's go with those guys. I mean,
not a single Borelli.
Easy ones for me. Fair enough. Matthew Modine, or if you can just have Loudon Swain, you got to go that. I like the Brian Shoot idea, or Frank Jasper. And then let's just do this full circle. I want Ed Bardley and Norman Borlaug characters as well. Throw them in the game.
Mode.
It's our damn game. Yeah.
I like it a lot. All right, so I went pretty old school with mine, right? So But not for my cover athletes though. So my cover athletes, I will stick with just the returning champs from last year. Messenbrink, Bird. Who else is in there? I think Levi
Vinny.
Haynes. No, Levi Haynes not in there. He
Vince
lost
Robinson,
to Hamity.
Hamity.
Vincent Robinson. Yeah, so I would go with our returning champs, kind of like the way the NCAA football is doing it with some different wrestlers or some different players on their cover. I'd go with our returning champs. Now the locked characters that I would have are pretty old school. And the first guy I'm going with is Stephen Neal because why
I almost
not?
wrote him down.
So Stephen Neal would be the one locked character, and the other one would be Pat Smith would be the other locked character for
First
me.
4-timer, yeah.
And have those two guys as locked characters to kind of, I guess, the final boss, if you will.
We have Dan Hodge just crushing apples.
Yeah,
yeah.
that'd be a good one.
Now the other celebs that I would go with, one would be Mr. T. Mr. T was a wrestler at one point. And the other would be
Steve Buscemi.
Yeah. The other would be Abraham
Not
Lincoln.
Billy Baldwin, damn it.
I'd go Abraham Lincoln, and I would completely be putting a headgear over that very tall hat.
Yeah, I like it.
That'd be
That's
fantastic.
who I would be. That's who I would go with.
Only now because they relaxed the beard rule.
Exactly. So it would be awesome. It would be awesome to have Abe Lincoln. It would be like a suit, one of those suit singlets that you see, with a tall hat.
Him and Teddy Roosevelt in like a wrestle off. That'd be pretty fun.
Exactly. I'll tell you what. If instead we had like fights or wrestle offs for president, I'd be fine with whoever the hell it is because at least you earned it.
That'd be fun.
That'd be a ton of fun. Now, I
would
would be,
right
I
now
would
for
be,
that.
yeah, I'd be completely
Let's have
going
fights to the death for president.
fights to the death. I would be going create a wrestler. I would, create a guy and like I said, maybe next show we do, the attributes of your create a wrestler, and who are you taking like 5 attributes from? But I would definitely create a guy. But in the corner, I'm going to do Bobby Douglas in the corner. And then a man that I looked up to as a young wrestler who I honestly can't believe I'm friends with now, is Kerry McCoy. Those would be my 2 guys in the corner for my creator wrestler, and I would be probably at 174 is where I think I would go. So yeah. That's how we end the show, gentlemen. We ended on kind of.
Let's bring it around full circle with a Kerry McCoy quad pod story.
Let me get one quick adjustment. I just realized if I'm going to have Ben Bennett and Sean Bourmet in my corner, my character will not have hair. No, I'll just
no hair. Yeah,
yeah. I got to match their level.
Go ahead with your quad pod
I'm also
story.
Lucky enough to call Kerry a friend. Genuinely one of the nicest people in the sport. I don't know anybody who has negative things to say about Kerry. But when I was up at Final X, I talked to him for a little bit, and it was not too long after we started this show, and he was asking how we came up with the name, and I gave the nod to Claunch there. He's like, I don't know why anybody calls it a tripod. It's not really a tripod; it's a quad pod. I think you guys got it right. So it's perfect.
Yeah, it's funny because he was one of the first guys that I met when I got to Flow. I met him at Iron Man. I met him as a high school wrestler. He was coaching at Lehigh when I was in high school. He was at Lehigh camp. But then when I got to Flow, he was still coaching at Maryland, and he like came over, introduced himself to myself and Kyle Bradkey, and he knew our shows. And it like for me as you become a little kid again. And now every time I get to talk to him, it's honestly really cool because we always have pretty long conversations. And he, he'll shoot me a text from now and then, but that day when I'm like, shit, I'm actually like making content that somebody I looked up to actually watches. It was like pretty cool. So him given the stamp of approval for the name. Again, another hat tip to Kevin for coming up with it, but it's awesome to have that stamp of approval from Terry McCoy. So yeah, it's awesome. To end things, I want to do a little bit of housekeeping. So one, we have some upcoming content. As I said, I talked to my friend Steve Minich today. That interview will be out, I think, like Wednesday. So this will be out on Tuesday. So you're listening to this on a Tuesday. The Minich interview will be out tomorrow. And then I want to issue a correction for something that I said last week. That shout out to Jason Bryant for correcting me. I said
Jason Bryant would never correct someone.
He would never. No, I love it. He keeps me so damn honest. Like it's pretty awesome. But Jason Bryant hit me up, and I love that he puts our show in his newsletter every week. So I really appreciate that, and hopefully if you're listening because you're clicking through on his newsletter, make sure you hit the subscribe button. But he corrected me. I said that the person that was rocking the headgear in the WWF back in the day was a British Bulldog because I always looked at this guy as a Bulldog.
Steiner.
It was Rick Steiner. So a little bit of housekeeping. Rick Steiner, not British Bulldog. It was more my mind of looking at a man that looked like an actual Bulldog to me. That
he did bark.
British anyway.
He did crawl around and bark.
Yes. So that's where it kind of all went. But yeah, I think there's probably a couple other interviews that we're going to be working on getting. But yeah, the Minich one
finalize the date with Mark
awesome.
Branch. That one will be coming out soon.
Yeah. I wanted to see if there were any others that you guys were also working on. So Kevin, you have an interview coming up. Who are you going to be talking with?
I'm going to be talking with Josh Moore. Very excited, new head coach at Kent State. Yeah, it's just one of those programs that was recently probably a lot more successful than people remember. I remember watching them battle with and they had Nick Bedelian and Dustin Kilgore, and they just had a bunch of badasses up and down their lineup. And it was a tough battle for my Chippewas. So, but I'm excited to see what he's going to be able to do. Talk with him a bit about the Cleveland State situation. He's got some guys coming with him from there, and ultimately he's still staying in Ohio. So what he can do to help elevate the conference and elevate that area as far as wrestling goes. So very excited to talk to Josh.
Yeah, looking forward to that one, mostly because we were waiting for that announcement to come for a while, right? We were just like, when is this going to happen? Like we got the news of this like so long ago, and it just kind of lagged. So looking forward to that interview to hear about what's going to be happening at Kent State moving forward. Robbie, what were the other ones that you had too?
Mark Branch will be coming on soon. We got to finalize the date with him. And then I'll start some ACC stuff in the next couple of weeks. Hoping to hit each one of the head coaches this year. I got most of them last year, with the exception, I think Glenn was the only one I missed last year. But hopefully everybody to get a preseason preview, talk about kind of what's going on in the ACC and where we're at and where we're going.
Yeah, like I said, I interviewed Steve Minich today. Steve and I grew up together, essentially. We were, he wrestled at Northampton where Austin went. I wrestled at Wilson High School, which wasn't too far away. And him and I were always around each other a good bit, being at a lot of the same tournaments and stuff like that. And, we practiced together. We were two totally different weight classes. He's way smaller than me, but, we were always, it was always cool to see those guys. Those guys were absolute hammers, but always really tough to practice with those guys. So it's always cool when I get to see a guy that I grew up with on that next level and coaching and things like that. He talks about his daughter. He gives an update on her and says that she's doing really, really well. And, I'll kind of leave that for the interview that comes out. But also, as we said, we're going to be talking with Nate Engel. And then there'll be a number of different coaches. I'll probably check back in with Rutgers with Goodale. There's a couple of things like I said that Minich alludes to that they're going to be doing. But then they also host the All-Star Duel, so I want to talk to Goody about that too. But yeah, there's a number of coaches that I'm gonna attempt to get to, not just in one conference. Obviously, Robbie, the ACC is completely yours. But I want to get to some guys.
That's my turf.
I'm not even going there. I'm gonna, I would never. But no, I want to, talk to Schwab, kind of see where things are at there, and if I can get to David Taylor, I'll attempt to. So do a little bit more Big 12, and maybe some of the guys in the Big 10 that I spoke to last year as well. But we're gonna have some pretty good content. Austin will obviously have EIWA and Ivy. With him having 2 conferences, maybe we split those up a little bit, but we're gonna try and do our best to bring some preview content when the season starts to come around, and maybe even get some wrestlers on as well. So we want to certainly make sure that we aren't just on here talking to each other, but we're also allowing the voices that are in the corners and on the mats to also speak for themselves. If there are any guys, girls, honestly, because we might even tap in with some women's wrestling too, that you want to hear from, put it in the comments. Reach out to us on Twitter. All our handles are below. I know over the last couple of weeks, there's been some people in the comments saying that we should put our names on the screen for the entire show. I'm still trying to figure out how, like, the best look for that, not how to do that, but the best look for that. Last week I had them kind of show up every 20 minutes on the show. So if you were watching, you would see our lower thirds pop up every 20 minutes. But I'm trying to configure how that can look the best without looking like it's taking over the entire screen. So I will incorporate that at some point. We do hear you. We are listening to all of your different comments and things like that, even when you tell us that we misspeak when we're not misspeaking, or just giving us criticism, which honestly we love too. So we appreciate it. We love you guys for watching, listening on every single platform. Shout out to our sponsors, Poseidon Strength and Adidas Wrestling. Be on the lookout for the giveaway contest that we are going to have with Adidas Wrestling coming in these coming months. And we'll see you guys again next time.